Hello and welcome. So last week, I had an exclusive interview with Dr. Joyce Wigwe, the elder sister of the late Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Access Bank PLC, Herbert Wigwe. And she spoke extensively on the legal battle and other disputes over the estate of her late younger brother, Herbert. The issue has now grabbed public attention and everyone is talking about it, especially after the public hearing of the legal challenge now over the late Wigwe's will in court. So we've decided to put the whole issue in proper perspective to enable the public better understand and follow the matter. Joining me to help us dissect the issues in detail is legal practitioner Libros Oshoma. Libros, thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
So Libros, this whole issue about the estate of the late Herbert Wigwe actually began when the father of the late Wigwe now, and of course, I think one of the uncles filed, I've forgotten the name of that uncle now, filed a case. They actually filed a caveat. And of course, Dr. Joyce Wigwe, that's the elder sister that I interviewed last week, spoke about that case, that they filed a caveat in court challenging the legitimacy now of the will brought by the other side, led by Aiboje Imokwede and Paul Usoro. And eventually, something happened in court. They also asked for a preliminary injunction. So they made some preliminary requests. So help us understand that request they made and what actually played out.
First and foremost, I listened to her 1 hour interview, and I have never really sat down to listen to a 1 hour interview online, but I took my time to listen because I've heard so much about the matter from, and I shared it also on my social media pages. And, what the issue of the will, because they are disputing the fact that their investigation revealed that the 3-page document that was presented here in Nigeria is actually an 18-page document in America, and that that will ordinary was limited by jurisdiction, that it was only supposed to cover the property in America and not anything near Nigeria.
And that will was dated 2013?
Yes, 2013. And the question also, some questions arose as to whether the late son's name was not mentioned, and if he knew he was going to die with his son, and all of those plenty legal issues, which the court will eventually decide anyway. But one thing that I understand most times, most rich men do in Nigeria to avoid inheritance tax in America. So when they buy assets, big assets in America like that, they ensure that there's a will tied to that asset. So by so doing, so that in the event of your demise, all your assets all over the world, because in America, if you are an American citizen and you have assets in Nigeria and you have assets in America, for the purpose of taxes, even those assets in Nigeria will be taxed. So what they do, they just create a will and limit the assets in America to that will, so that you don't begin to tax all the assets that they own all over the world. That I know of. And then, but for this matter, permit me quickly, what the Wigwe's actually, the preliminary objection that was filed by them is for an order for the appointment of Tochi Wigwe, Uche Wigwe, Shanghai Wigwe. I think that's Shingel is the father. Okay, that's the father of Herbert now. That's the father of Herbert, and 2 professionals, which is Zendra Trust Company, Isle of Man, a subsidiary of Zendra Corporate Solution UK Limited, international professionals, and PricewaterhouseCoopers, local professionals, as interim administrator of Herbert Estate, pending the resolution of the substantive suit. So, and then also, they also requested an order placing Herbert's minor children, that's David, Wegu and Hannah, I think those ones are twins, and then Okachi, Great Wigwe, under the joint counsel guardianship of Tochi Wigwe, Uche Wigwe, Emeka Wigwe, Shanghai, that's the Herbert's father, Wigwe, and the two professionals nominated, with Herbert's father overseeing their welfare. They also sought authorization for the interim administrator to maintain and ensure the welfare of the Herbert Wigwe's dependent, then liaise with third parties regarding financial and property interests, submit monthly reports to the court, and obtain full disclosure from Access Bank, Coronation Merchant Bank, and United Securities Limited concerning shares of financial interest held on behalf of, late Herbert. For me, ordinarily, these are things that, anybody would want to ask for. It's like asking for transparency. But what the court did was...
But it's not as if, by making that request, it's not as if they are asking to take over the estate of...
No. What they are simply asking is, okay, the same Uche, the same Tochi, which is the daughter now, and then two professionals, one international professional and one local professional, which is a PricewaterhouseCoopers, and then also members, certainly some members of the family, to interim managers of the asset, and then to give monthly account. And then also, these interim managers will also take care of the children. So for me, ordinarily, these are not. This is not out of place. Asking to say, okay, let's have transparency. But what the court said, basically said was that since these prayers are also part of the prayers in the main case, and that deciding these prayers at this preliminary stage will be tantamount to deciding the case also. And so the court heard that these prayers are premature. It wasn't as if the court just granted an order. So
it's not as if this is a case that they lost anyway.
No. So what they are saying is, pending the determination of the main case in court, please, so that these assets, they are not, maybe before you finally grant your order, they are not tampered with. Let there be an interim manager to preserve them, so that the interim manager will be giving account to the court. I do not know in the court, the wisdom why the court refused to grant. It's like asking for an interlocutory injunction pending the hearing and determination of the main suit. Ordinarily, the court would preserve their own powers, so as not to force a fait accompli on the court. The court ordinarily will grant such a prayer as, okay, report to the court. What the court usually do in matters like this is to say, okay, the court will appoint administrators as, okay, or like Lagos State will appoint some persons from the office of the Administrator General to manage the estate. But I think maybe why the court decided this way to say, okay, let's wait till the end, since somebody is dangling a will, or that there is a will, and others are contesting the fact that this will does not apply to anything in Nigeria. It is limited to one property in America. And so to that extent, so I think if the court feels that granting these prayers now might be going into the substantive issue of the will. And so, but the question is, what if eventually after the determination of the case, I'm just saying,
and
there is nothing, there is no asset again. What will now be, but that's what
And that could be the reason why they've decided to appeal against the...
Yes, I think that's what the Wigwes are trying to protect, that look, they also want to ensure that at the end of the day, at the end of the determination of the case, there are still assets, and these assets are known, and the court will have a record. And if the court decide one way or the other, then whoever, whatever it is, then parties can actually, have something to latch onto.
Now, when this whole story broke about going to court and all of that, the story that came out of the court was that the old man, that's the Herbert's late Herbert's father now, was taking the 25 or 26-year-old granddaughter.
No, that's not the case here.
From what you know.
No. From what I have read,
from
the processes that I have read, what actually happened was the daughter, his granddaughter, was originally not part of the suit. I think the people that were taken to court were, I think, the Herbert friend, which is Ige Mokwede, Uche, and I think one other person. So the bank. Yes, it is in the course of the matter that the defendants now, the counsel to the defendant, applied to join the daughter, which is Tochi, to the suit. It is not, Tochi was originally not party in the matter. And what the father is praying for, the prayers is requesting the court, is what I just read now, asking for transparency and asking for an interim administrator.
And Tochi to be part of the
Tochi will be part of this administrator. So he ordinarily would not be fighting with Tochi and then asking the court to make Tochi an interim administrator, make Uche an interim administrator, appoint international administrator, appoint local administrator. Also, as the father of the late Herbert, also he would be there to oversee things. He would, if he's fighting his daughter, his granddaughter, he would not, be requesting the courts to make her, an interim administrator. And then all of these, that at the end of the day, every month, let them render account to the court. Which for me, ordinarily, if there were no dispute, this ordinarily would have been, something that everybody would ordinarily pray for and, not object to. And so to show that we are all transparent, let there be an interim administrator, so that let us prove that truly this will that you are disputing is indeed, will for all intent and purpose of all his assets.
Now, another question I want to ask you is, there's also that narrative out there about the father of Herbert, that Shingle, asking for 20% of his estate. Did you, from what you know, and from what you have seen, you've read the court processes and all of that, you had the interview, did you come across anything like that?
No, I've from the processes, there is not. From the processes, really, what the family is not asking for percentage of the assets. They are not even, what they are asking is that the said will that was presented, for all intent and purpose, was limited by jurisdiction. And so that cannot be the will. And they are also interested in knowing, where all of the assets are, from what I have seen. And that's why, if they were talking about grabbing a piece of the asset, they won't be asking that an interim administrator be appointed and that the administrator will render account to the bank, to the court. What they're simply asking for is, look, we want to see transparency. We want because for me, really, these are my personal opinion. I think the 26-year-old girl is too young to understand the intricacies of, the business that his father actually owned. It was massive. Herbert was big. It was massive in terms of business, acumen. And recently, okay, I asked a question. Recently, the bank recapitalized. How much of her father's investment will she understand? She has, from the auntie's interview, she said she has never worked before. Just worked for a month now. So this kind of investment are too, complicated for her to understand without the guidance of, independent professionals, actually, also supervised by the family, because you can be lost. She's a young girl, with that kind of money, certainly she can't be lost. And so the family would, or a responsible family would certainly want to protect theirs. And I think that's what basically they are doing.
Let's talk about this will, which is the genesis of all of this. Do you think, from what you have seen and from what you know, do you think the family is justified to question the will? I'm also concerned the fact that this will is dated 2013. Even at this period, Herbert had not become the MD of Access Bank, and he was a deputy managing director, I suppose, at that time. Besides that, he would not have accumulated, the amount of assets and what he has now. So, do you think the family has a legitimate point now to contest and file that caveat?
People contest will for various reasons, and then if you look at this issue. If I were a part of the family, certainly I would, against what I know now and some of the documents I've seen, I will also, toe the same part. I lost my father in 1979, so as a young boy. So certainly because my father didn't have anything now, so nobody dragged his estate. But his brothers took care of us, who are his children. I grew up with my my uncle that I know as, you know, my father today, the older one and the younger one. So my uncles, we all call them daddy because we grew up under them. When their brother died, they took us, you know, and trained us. And so that's how we became who we are today. So I understand where this family is coming from, having been a beneficiary of family, you know, upbringing. So when somebody dies, I also listened to the woman. She said that when Herbert's older brother died, that Herbert, you know, was the one that took care of the estates, and they put them in a trust and handed over to his wife. So against all of that, certainly when, you know, you've lost not just a son, two sons, a son and a grandson, and then the wife, certainly the first thing will not be assets. But mind you, he has children, some 2 years old from what I learned.
Yes.
Certainly you will want to protect those children, especially if the man, you know, left a whole lot. You don't want a situation where the children will be crying tomorrow that, you know, their father left so much and they can't find any. Like you see in some tradition, a man dies that the wife is chased out of the house and, you know, they just share his estate.
So Tochi obviously is not the only child left behind.
No. From what you have, I read in the court process.
There are four others.
There are four other children, so who are minors. And so, against all of this, and then a will now surface. And you say, oh, this will from 2015 or 2013, 2015, and then we're in 2025. A will surface from the blues and just 3 documents for a man of that, you know, intelligence. Certainly you will want to take a second look at the will. And so from the lady, the sister's point of view, they said they conducted an investigation and discovered that this will actually emanated from Florida and America. And they went there, they discovered that the 3 pages brought here, it was actually 8 pages. So that will raise a red flag.
18 pages.
18 pages. That will raise a red flag in the first instance. So if truly this person wants to be altruistic and transparent, why remove just the first 3 pages and leave out the other 3 pages? What are in those documents that they are trying to conceal that they don't want us to know? So that would raise a red flag. That's first and foremost why you question the will, because the motive behind, you know, concealment of certain aspect of the will.
But then if the daughter, Tochi, is not raising a red flag.
That's why I told you that for a 26 years old.
No, the question I'm asking is, if the daughter, Tochi, is not raising a red flag, do the family members have a right to raise a red flag?
Yes, they do. They do. You know, see, the family members, especially the father, in this instance, you have little grandchildren. Let me say, DG, if this man was like my father who died without anything, certainly they'll bear the responsibility of having to take care of these little children. They'll be the one to train them and try as much as they can to give them that love and that life that they were used to. So which was what happened to some of us. You know, trying to give us that life that we were used to at that young age our father, you know, ordinarily gave to us. But so in this case, so they saw lapses. And it's ordinarily, nobody will fold their hands and say, you know, because the daughter, who they feel is still very young, did not raise a red flag. Like I asked, how much does she know? You know, how much of her father's asset does she know without the guidance of professional? How many professionals does she know that she can even, you know, speak to without the guidance of her father, who was a DG of NTA, who retired at the highest level of...
That's her grandfather.
Yes, the grandfather, who retired at the highest level of his professional career.
And she has relatives who are highly educated.
Exactly. Have a relative, have an auntie who is a PhD, who has a PhD, you know, who's also a lawyer. Certainly, those families will not fold their hands. It's not about the property now, first and foremost. It's about, you know, protecting their name and protecting theirs. So that's what I basically see here. And I think also the other party, the way they're going about it, it's beginning to raise suspicion that there is something to hide. If there's nothing to hide, what do you do? If I were in that position, what I do? Call the father, oh, daddy, this is it, this is it, this is it. How do we go about it? Okay, you want us to appoint, you know, other administrators
is there anything wrong if the other party even involves the relatives? I mean, the brother and sisters of...
That's why you say, when you say no...
Of the late Herbert.
Okay, let's assume.
The reason I ask this question is because you heard the sister say that, you know, the other party would come and meet with their father behind closed doors and then tell him not to disclose anything.
Look, Deji, let's assume that even Herbert was even not in the good books or not in good terms with his siblings. But the fact that they have lost somebody, you just call everybody together and say, okay, this is it. How do we proceed from here? I have.
So that there's no suspicion at all.
I have uncles. I have, you know, in-laws. Okay, I remember when my father-in-law died. You know, an elderly man. The daughter still had to call everybody to say, okay, how do we proceed from here? You know, so in the same vein, when something like that happened, you sit down with your larger family. You were in Africa. You say, okay, well, I know there is a will somewhere, but let's look at it if truly, you know, he meant this will to be subsisting till this. We're talking about 2013, 2015, till this date, because he didn't expect that all of this was going to happen, and it has happened. I know the bond that you share, even if there was no bond, but I want to respect the bond and the friendship that I enjoy with this person. So you put all your cards on the table and say, okay. But what I see here is like there's a lot of boardroom politics playing out here. And so they are also dragging family name into boardroom politics. And, you know, really, Deji, you don't begin to ask yourself, so what's really the essence of wealth? If, you know, I wish some persons could, you know, one day, maybe God will just, okay, go back, sort out this little mess and then come again. You know, so all of this will be spared, all of this. And then some persons, really, if some persons were to be alive today to see, you know, what the wealth that they left behind and how people, you know, are going about it, I believe they will ask themselves, what was really the need for all of those struggles? So I do not think that what the family is asking for is out of place. I think that the other party, should Agboje Mokwede, who has been a close friend of Ig, and you can only you said,
yeah, who has been a close friend of Herbert?
Herbert, sorry. You can only immortalize your friend by carrying the family along in whatever you're doing with
uniting them
with his estate, because someday you're also going to leave. You know, what would you want to be remembered for? With all you have done, would you want to be remembered as somebody who was dragging, you know, assets with your late friends and eventually, you know, disintegrate and destroy the bond and friendship? If the matter drags on to Supreme Court and the Supreme Court rules otherwise tomorrow, what, you know, legacy are you leaving behind? You know, so some of these things, you also have your assets, you have your own. For all intents and purposes, Agimokwe is also not a poor man. It's a rich man, so I can understand, you know, boardroom control and the rest, but yet he would be, you know, taller, far taller, by coming out to call the parents and the siblings and say, you know what, this is what it is. Forget whatever anybody is saying. Let us go as you, since it's your child anyway. It's my friend, it was my friend, but it's your son. How do you want it to go? I want to appoint an international administrator. Okay, yes, I don't trust these ones, I trust these ones. Let us put heads together, appoint third parties, let them be rendering account to us, you know, once every month. There's no need for all of this court until we're able to ascertain, you know, assets everywhere. And once that is done, all of these stories would be put behind, and well, you know, the parties. It appears
simple things are just not simple, and common sense sometimes is not so common. And because I really appreciate what you have just said, and you would think that's the normal thing to do. That's just the way to go. But you know, we tend to make simple things look very complex, sad, really, which is unnecessary.
You now have the people having to mourn their son, and then also the fact that they are mourning their son and their son, their grandson, their daughter-in-law is not bad enough. They are also having to question the integrity of the friendship that you people shared.
Which is bad.
It's a double jeopardy, really.
It's a double jeopardy. Libra Soshoma, thank you very much for coming on the program, and thanks for sharing your insights on this very important issue. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. All right, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Don't go away.